Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the Deen Show. I'm with Hakim Archuleta. He went from surfing to doing all sorts of incredible things. He's into the prophetic tradition of medicine. And guess where he's at? Right next to me. Assalamu alaikum.
This is the Deen Show.
This is the Deen Show. This is the Deen Show.
This is the Deen Show.
This is the Deen Show. This is the Deen Show.
This is the Deen Show.
Alaikum salam.
Now, you used to surf?
I did surf. Yeah, it was actually in the 40s and the 50s that I was surfing.
Yeah. What
That's when they had longboards.
longboards?
They had different boards than they have now. Back in those days.
Me actually, as a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner, many people, they end up really surfing for the balance and many other, they derive good benefits for it in the martial art.
Yeah. And I think, yeah, I've always said, and I believe very much that it's a very valuable practice. It teaches you not only these things of balance and coordination, but and sensory awareness of what's happening, but teaches you how to ride the waves. And everything in nature and everything in life, we could say, if we look at it in one way, there's a wave. Inclinations and ideas and attitudes come, and things happen in waves. They start somewhere, and then they grow into a bigger thing, and then another wave comes. And so in surfing, you learn to read the waves. So one of the things the surfers say, if they're together, they'll say outside, meaning don't take this wave. There's one outside that's even better. Hang on, and then you make an effort. You paddle. It's like shaking the tree. You paddle just enough to get to the right place in the wave, and then you can stand up and you let the wave carry you.
Oh.
So that's a deep wisdom that we can apply to many, many things in life, including healing.
Can you share with us that time in your life when you were seeking to know the purpose of life, you believed in the Creator, and then you asked Him to guide you? Something very simple, yet profound. And then you actually, from there, you actually met a Muslim, and who told you about Islam. Can you share with us this experience you had?
When I heard what Islam was, I realized that I'd been praying to God and saying to God, please, God, show me what I'm looking for. That's, I'm thankful to you, and forgive me for wanting more, but I want more, and something I know what it is. And so when someone simply explained to me what Islam was, the 5 pillars and so forth, it was pretty clear to me that's what I had been praying for.
This is unique. I mean, so you believed in a Creator,
Yes.
a higher power,
Yes.
God Almighty,
That's right.
and you didn't go through any intermediary. You just prayed to God.
I would pray. I was a musician at the time, and I actually would sing my prayers. So it's, oh God, here I am, whatever. I just make up whatever and spontaneously play music with this. But I would ask God for whatever I wanted. And at that time, like I say, I was asking forgiveness for wanting more, but wanting more. And then I prayed that. It was doing the same prayer for maybe 5 days, weeks, something like that. And then I went to Berkeley and met a man who was a Muslim, and he said this is what Islam was, and I knew immediately. So his dawah, you could say, took about 20 minutes, half hour with me.
Wow,
Yeah,
it's amazing.
because I was looking for it, and I think this is something to realize with people. There are many, many people out there that are looking for something like Islam, but we have to allow it to be something for them other than just another world religion, something that's put them off. A lot of people are put off by world religions. They become atheists, or they become agnostics. They just don't practice anything. And but it's helpful to realize that inside everyone is this longing and this desire to find something that's fulfilling in terms of, we could say, in terms of a belief system, an iman, some kind of, everybody, Quran says everybody worships something. Look to what it is you worship. And it helps to recognize that people they want that from inside. The wisdom by which you allow them to discover it is kind of key. And my sheikh, my teacher in Morocco, he said, don't talk to people about Islam. Don't argue for Islam and talk about it. Just feed them and welcome them as guests. And I've seen that. After around 9/11, before 9/11, I came back from Morocco and other travels in the world, and I took up this practice for myself personally of feeding people, and I would have a big meal for maybe 25, 35 people. My kids were, at an age when they'd invite their friends that weren't Muslims to have these meals, and we cooked really good food for them and feed them. And I would explain to people, I'd say, I'm doing this, feeding you, and we're coming together just because as human beings, we want this, and it's natural for us to just be together with each other, eat together, be appreciative and thankful for it. We wouldn't talk about Islam. They knew we were Muslims, my family, and we'd go off and pray but there was no overt, discussion about Islam. But when 9/11 happened, following 9/11, I started getting phone calls from people who would come to those dinners. And they'd say to me, Hakim, I want to come to dinner on Sunday, but could I come a little earlier because I'd like to talk to you about some things. 9 people became Muslim. Wow. And all we did is, we never talked about it. All we did was feed them, and all they did was observe the way we worked together. Mm-hmm. And it was a very natural, organic kind of thing that took place.
Do you see a big difference from when you were coming up in the university setting to today with this whole movement, the new atheism, as they call it? Was there such a thing back then?
Not as much there is now, no. But again, it's like one of the famous historians said, this period of time is unique in human history, that people have this idea that they can live without a religion, without some sort of body of teaching that they can call their religion and their way in which they worship God together. So it's a new thing, and it's an example of the kind of the way in which we're kind of bereft in the present world, the present time, and how we do without so much that we realize is essential to our nature. So, yeah, and I follow what Imam Ghazali said, which is, the atheist somewhere inside knows and believes in God because they came from the spirit in that common spirit in which God said to them, Allah said to them, Alasti bi rabbikum, am I not your Lord? And they answered affirmatively, yes, you are my Lord. And that enabled them to be embodied in this world. And based on that, when I have no arguments with the atheists. I have no discussion or evidence. I don't have nothing to prove. I simply like to say, look, believe me, whether you believe me or not, you believe in God. Whether you know it or not.
You tell them head on, huh?
I tell them head on.
Who you kidding?
Sometimes they get really angry.
That's like saying, who you kidding?
Yeah, exactly. Like, who are you kidding? Yeah, and you believe in God. Don't tell me. I know you've got a whole discussion. I've heard it many times. I'm not interested. Yeah. Believe me. You believe in God, and I just leave it at that. And last time I said that, the man, his veins went out in his neck and his face got red. Yeah. But I don't see the point of getting into a discussion about it because, my discussion, my words, are not nearly as strong as God's evidence. Someone said if you don't, not believing in God is like trying to prove the existence of God is like trying to prove the existence of the sun in the sky. Duh. Yeah. Kind of obvious. Yeah. So, yeah, it's a different thing now, isn't there? There's a lot of this
lot of new stuff coming up, huh?
A lot of new stuff. And a lot of kind of extremist atheists, I guess, too. Yeah. They're really proud. I'm an atheist, and I'm proud of it.
Trying to convert us to atheism. No, they push it.
I remember, too, someone saying, well, if you're atheist, at least you have the beginning of the whole principle of Islam, which is La ilaha. There is no God except Allah, except the absolute reality, which is not a God. And I used to, when I became a convert, I loved the principle that I was not becoming a part of a world religion. I was becoming a part and joining something that was much more essential and true on a very basic, real level. That it's the path for us as human beings, quite simply, nothing more. Yeah. So. Not an organization with all their sort of details, and that takes place too in Islam, but it was part of something that comes naturally forth from it as part of our fitra, our first nature.
Mm-hmm. We're going to go ahead and take a break, and we'll be right back with more. I got some more questions to ask our special guest here. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Subscribe right now.
Assalamu alaikum, welcome back to the Deen Show. Now, when you did accept Islam, and I usually, like to explain to, not yet Muslims out there, the people, our brothers and sisters in humanity, because, when you think Islam, you think something foreign, something something from Arabia, but Islam was something that Jesus did, Moses did, Abraham did. They all submitted their will to the Creator, alone, pure monotheism.
Yes.
And did you get a lot of backlash now from your family, friends, when you did accept Islam?
Friends at that time, as I was in Berkeley, a lot of friends.
Was there a ransom on your head?
No, a lot of my friends thought I'd lost it, gone crazy. People at that time in Berkeley, this was 60s in Berkeley, so they were examining all kinds of things, yoga and Buddhism and Eastern religions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And in that setup, in which we were investigating all sorts of things, Islam came up. But Islam kind of, like I say, when I met the Muslim, explained what it was. It was, it kind of stuck with few of us. And a lot of my friends that at that time, when I became Muslim, there were two other friends of mine in Berkeley that became Muslims at the same time. And they all kind of thought we were crazy. They were artists and, poets and things like that. But the interesting thing is that a lot of those people eventually, through the years, there were 6 more people from our kind of community of friends that ended up becoming Muslims eventually, through the years. So it was kind of interesting. It just took them a little longer to get to that.
Yeah.
But we were looking at all sorts of things at that time in Berkeley, all sorts of options and possibilities, because basically a lot of what happened at that time in the 60s was a really healthy dissatisfaction with the status quo. Like I say, the spiritual wastelands of Southern California, the 40s and 50s lifestyle that was very, very oppressive and closed and not much life in it. So, we were looking at all these things at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And for a lot of people, Islam, a lot of people became Muslim eventually, in time. Just comparing it. I remember being part of some radio programs, or I think radio or TV, in which, that we discuss, that we'd have on the panel, we'd have Muslim, myself representing Islam, and a Christian, and a Jew, and a Buddhist, and a New Age person, and we discuss. I remember one program we were discussing angels. And it was a full, long half-hour, 45-minute program, something like that. And they all had the things to say about angels. And then I realized that at some point they had not much more to say. And I realized as a Muslim, I had a lot more to say. I could go on and on and on about it. And that's one of the things that I found really remarkable when I did become Muslim, is the vast knowledge of wisdom, the kind of sea of knowledge and kind of just information, at least, but the knowledge that backed up everything in Islam was enormous.
Yeah. Tell us, you shared yesterday a story that you had, because I think this is very important for anyone out there to do, in a state of confusion that many people are in. They might have the biggest houses, the biggest cars, they got money, suicides on the rise, even amongst teens, trauma. Yeah. And we've been affected by it. But something just as simple as what you did, you asked, God alone.
Yeah.
You didn't go through anyone out there. And you mentioned that you passed this along to a lady shortly while after you saw her in hijab.
I could tell that story. I mean, actually, she was a patient of mine, and she had come to me with emotional problems and some physical problems, and we did some work for a period of time, and she overcame her physical problems and emotional problems. She was a lot better. And then one day she came to me after she'd been well for a while. She came back and she said, I've come to this place in my life, and I considered it a continuation of her being well and getting healthy again. And she said, I feel the need for worship in my life. And I could have said to her, as a Muslim, I could have said, well, you should look at Islam, because that's what I do. And so, but I felt some level that wasn't quite ethical. I was in a little confusion, not certain whether I should say that or not, but I decided not to say it. And rather I said, well, you could do something that I know that some people do, which is, get up before dawn and find a place where you can sit in reflection and just be with yourself and be with, ask reality that you find yourself in this period of time in life itself. Ask that reality to show you signs or guidance of some kind. So it comes from deep within you, it comes to you in your world. And she said, well, I'll try that. Thanks for the advice. And I left her. And then 2 or 3 months later, I ran into her on the street. She was wearing hijab. Mm-hmm. And she said, yeah, I did what you said. Thank you so much, because I did that. And I asked reality what I should do for guidance and worship. And she said, everywhere I turned that day, the message, Islam, 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 Islam was there. So she became Muslim.
That's the beautiful thing, because the creator of the heavens and earth, that's the ultimate reality. The one who created everything. And
So
when you
just
ask
another name for
him,
God.
when you ask God Almighty alone for guidance, he will facilitate a way.
Yeah.
But it's surprising. You don't see many people doing that basic step.
Yeah.
Seeking out the purpose of life, why we're here, why we've been created. And
Some
then seeking
people
to
do
know.
it, some people don't.
Yeah.
Some people are, but again, like I said, it's valuable to know that somewhere inside people are seeking that. I mean, people also give up on it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And they just shut down and turn it all off, and they stop that seeking. But even those people, sometimes inside there's that spark, because they've come, the Quran says we all come from Allah and return to Allah.
Yes.
And what happens in this life is, this is the zone of action. This is the time we have a chance to declare that we're Muslim, or to do good actions, bad actions. All these things of action take place, and in the next life, the meanings of these actions will become manifest.
Mm-hmm.
So, deep inside, even and the true nature, our true nature of people, this is something that's valuable if someone does counseling. I do a lot of counseling work, so-called psychological work, depression and anxiety and things like that. And for these people, it's valuable to know that inside them, or lack of confidence in the world, and they're beaten down by society, and poor people and socially kind of disenfranchised and so forth. And it's helpful for those people to connect with their true nature, and help them and recognize that inside these people. I mean, even I've seen people come out of prisons, just the most outwardly the most difficult kind of people. And they can access this true nature inside. There is compassion, the inclination for compassion in there, for love and goodness. So that's something to keep in mind with the most difficult people, sometimes even the most annoying people, that you expect the best from them. And that's likely to come forth, inshallah.
God willing, you hearing it here on the Deen Show. We'll be right back with more. Don't give up. That's the myth. Don't give up. Spark what's already inside of you. We want to bring it out. We'll be right back with more here on the Deen Show. Don't go anywhere.
Subscribe right now.
Back here on the Deen Show for my special guest. And what advice now, before we conclude, would you give from your experience? You also now deal with the prophetic medicine, helping people with their health, with their nutrition. We see that it's astonishing, statistics. One is that 50% of people living today will have cancer. 1 in 4 will die from it. 95% of chronic diseases are by the food choices that people are making. Obesity is on the rise. Epidemic, and kids are not expected to outlive their parents. This is a matter that needs to be taken serious. You've been around. You've been dealing with these things. Give us some tips.
Well, the most important thing I would suggest is that whatever is going on in one's life, whether it's emotional difficulties, physical difficulties, whatever it might be that seems to be obstacles, like you said, don't give up. I mean, it's the possibilities are enormous for healing. What we experience and what we've experienced, and the difficulties that we've that we find ourselves with, is not a sentence. By Allah's generosity, I've seen, for example, I worked with cancer people for a long time. There's no known cancer that was not sort of a person overcame. We could say healed. A lot of people say, well, remission, whatever. There's no cancer known that people did not have victory over. And this is true for all sorts of illnesses, and in terms of emotional things and depression and so-called. I mean, one of the things that just bothers me so deeply is this thing when someone is diagnosed as being schizophrenic. They're told by psychiatrists, well, this is something you'll have for your all your life, and you'll have to take medication. And that's just not true. Statistically, if you go to the National Institute of Mental Health, the World Health Organization, and you look at the statistics, 2/3 of those people recover. 2/3 of people come back to a normal functioning life. And this is just the same thing is true for all the obstacles and difficulties. The more obstacles, in fact, the truth of the matter is this, deep wisdom here in this, and listen carefully, anyone listening, that all the difficulties we have are gifts for us when we can recognize them, when we can understand them, when we can make use of them and assimilate them and transmute them from difficulties and obstacles into resources for wisdom and compassion in ourselves. We're designed to do that by Allah's design in us. And that's what real healing is about. That's what real spiritual progress, spiritual path is about. Taking all the difficult, all the slings and arrows of life and turning those around and using those things as resources so that we can be more compassionate for others who have similar problems and the difficulties they're going through are similar to our own. And really nothing more valuable for us in terms of healing, in terms of being in this world, than serving other people and helping them out of their difficulties. By Allah, says in Quran, He indicates these kind of things.
Sheikh, thank you for spending
Alhamdulillah.
time with us.
You're welcome.
We started with peace, a very, very powerful greeting that we greet with, and people are searching for it, and they turn into the Deen Show and they're listening to
Inshallah.
us.
Okay.
Hopefully they can find it like, we're saying it. And don't give up. We'll see you next time. Tune in every week to the Deen Show. Subscribe if you haven't already. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum. Peace be with you.
Subscribe right now.